Let's talk about dimensions, units, and prefix. This is very important when you cover fluid mechanics course or any other engineering courses, because these are essential knowledge that you need to know as an engineer before you cover any course material. So let's assume that I have a tree and there is a wall, and I requested you to measure the distance between the tree and the wall. So you're gonna go ahead and bringing measuring tape, right? Then you're gonna start measuring the distance from here all the way to here. Then you're gonna tell me what value you did measure, and you're gonna say, okay, I measured the distance to be 30. And whatever that 30, let's assume that we talk about 30 feet or 30 meter or whatever that distance measuring tape is telling you is. So now the question, what is that distance and what is that description that you have next to it? So that distance here is really a physical quantity you can measure, right? Very similar to that distance. We know that distance, I can measure it. Time, I can measure it. Temperature, I can measure it. Mass, I can measure it. So any physical quantity that you can measure, we call the actual dimensions. So this is the definition of a dimensions. So dimensions are physical quantity I can measure. That include distance, time, temperature, mass, and so on. Okay, so these are basic dimensions here. Then if you measure that distance and say, okay, the distance between the tree and the wall is 30, and you keep silent. What 30 here is presenting is that 30 inches, 30 meter, 30 feet. You have to give me something after that number, right? And this is what actually gives the sense, the meaning of that number. And this quantity that you are giving here, or that description that you are giving here, this is what we call the units. So units is what give meaning for a numeric value of a measured dimension. So any number you are expressing here, it's presenting a measured physical quantity and has to be described by a meaning unit. This is very important in engineering. In fluid mechanics, without having the units, number has no meaning. You cannot describe any phenomena without having that units here. So that's what we mean by dimension units. Prefix is just a mathematical way to present that numeric value here. And we're going to talk about details. For example, let's assume that you measured the distance and you're telling me that distance is coming to be 31215 millimeter. I personally like to have the units actually in between brackets, so that's going to be a habit you're going to see in the course videos here. So maybe that number is too big to write it down that way, so someone would say, okay, just from the basic knowledge as an engineer, this can be written in a different way. I can write this as 312 maybe 1 or 2. Instead of writing meter, that's millimeter, I'm going to write that as meter, because I know that 1 meter is equal 1,000 millimeter. So this means that if I divide that by 1,000, I will get that number. Now, if you replace the meter by 1,000 millimeter, you're almost going to get the same number up here. So the way of shrinking or reducing the size of numbers, this is what called the prefix. So let's recap what we have in this video here. Dimensions are physical quantity that you can measure. You express that physical quantity by numeric value, which can be written in a different format, including engineering prefix, and each numeric value has to be described by a physical meaning known as the units. So in the upcoming couple videos, we're going to cover more details about dimensions, about the units, and what our system of units we're using in engineering, especially in the fluid mechanics, and what is the definition of prefix and how we can use that technique, engineering prefix to reduce the way of writing numeric values. So I'll see you guys in the next video.